Hey there, welcome to the final part in this introductory series on web development. Today we're going to be deploying our little web app to the internet, which means it's going to go from an app that lives only on your computer and only you can access to an app that anyone on the internet can reach using a web address. And so for a more comprehensive guide on this topic, I recommend the Mozilla Developer Notes article on deploying to production. You can find it just by Googling MDN Deploy Express, and it will be the first link here. And this goes over all the theory concepts and all of the potential bugs and best practices that are relevant to this topic. But without further ado, let's just get started. The first thing we're going to want to do is make a few accounts. We're going to need a GitHub account, and we're going to need a Heroku account. GitHub is an online provider for this version control system called Git. And what that means is Git is a version control system that lets you save different versions of your code, and GitHub is an online place to save those versions, and those two work together. Heroku is an online platform that helps you host your website, and it does most of the hard work in the background for us. And so we want to use this to get our website running quickly. So go ahead and make a GitHub account and make a Heroku account. Alright, once you've made a GitHub account and a Heroku account, you're going to actually want to install Git and Heroku. So to install Git, just Google git install and go to the first link that pops up and just follow these instructions, and it'll tell you how to install Git. To install Heroku, Google install Heroku, go to the first link that pops up, and similarly, you can follow these instructions to install Heroku on your machine, whatever machine that may be. Alright, now that you have Git and Heroku installed, we're going to start working with Git. And so what we want to do is come to GitHub and go to your newly created account. I made one called Turtle Test Tutorials, just specifically for this video. And you're going to come here and click Create Repository. And so you're going to pick a repository name. And so what a repository is, it's an area where you're going to store all the versions of your code. So pick something that has something to do with your project. Whatever your project name is, name it. You can give it a description if you want. I like turtles. And there's obviously not a very good description, but that doesn't really matter. Anyone on the internet can see this repository, that's fine. Add this, add this. Come here and pick Node, because we're working with Node.js. Gitignore basically tells the Git versioning system what files not to keep updating. So if you download files from, say, a library, you don't want to keep uploading those files over and over and over if they haven't changed, since they're not your files, they're just from a library. So just add gitignore here. And we can just create our repository. Alright, so now that we've created our GitHub repository, we're going to want to bring this to our computer so we can actually upload our files to it. And so what we're going to do is we're going to come to clone, and we're going to copy this link, and let me just get rid of an old version. Don't worry about that. And we're going to come to wherever we want to have our project live, and we're going to say git clone, and then we're going to paste this link. So what this does is it creates a local version of the GitHub repository, and you're going to make all your changes in this local repository. And once you are done, you will upload them to the GitHub cloud. All right, so now that we've cloned a local repository, and I just made it on my desktop, we can see, did I make it on my desktop? Where did I make it? Oh, no, I didn't make it on my desktop. That's a mistake. Let me make it on my desktop. All right. All right, there we go. Now it should be on my desktop. Okay, so we come here and we can see we have a local version of our repository, complete with the git ignore and readme. And this .git thing here is just here to make sure that the git versioning system works. So we don't mess with that. What we're going to do is we're going to make our changes in our code editor, and then we're going to bring them to this repository, and then we're going to upload them to GitHub. And this is important because Heroku also uses Git. And so we're going to learn how to use Git by doing this. Now, this tutorial was originally a lot more simple, but along the way, GitHub actually changed how they perform user authentication. So it used to be that you could just log into your GitHub account, and then you could run all the GitHub commands, and you could just push to it. But now they're not doing password authentication anymore. They're doing personal access tokens, which is a new feature they made on the 13th of August 2021, which is currently just a few days before I'm recording this video. So we're going to try to follow along with the changes they've made and authenticate our account. So essentially, I have a Quora article here. That's not Quora. What am I saying? That's Stack Overflow. This explains how to work with the new Git authentication system. I would just Google, what did I Google? Git support for password authentication was removed, which is the error message you get if you don't use the system. And then you'll probably find this article, and you can work through whatever you need to do for your personal machine. I am going to do it for Mac, and we'll just work through it as we go. So let's go to settings, developer settings, personal access tokens, generate a personal access token for turtles. This will, no expiration, it's fine. And let's give it access to everything. Why not? We're the only people who are going to use this. Alright, now that I have my personal access token, and honestly, normally you shouldn't be showing this to anyone else, but this is just a sandbox repository that's not important, so it doesn't really matter. Now that we have a personal access token, we, for macOS, go to keychain access, github.com, and let's see. Let's copy this in. Huh. I guess it automatically copies for us. Does it? Yeah, it does. Okay. And we'll just save the changes. Alright, now we should be able to continue with the rest of the tutorial. Alright, so now that we have our GitHub authenticated, let's come over to our new repository that we made. We're going to want to copy over all the old things, except for node modules, into our new repository. And the reason we want to do this is so we can upload these files to the GitHub repository. But we don't need to upload node modules because those are just library files we installed from somewhere else. So whoever's using our application can just install it using npm themselves. And again, all the information for that is already in package.json, so they already know what node modules they need. And npm will detect that for them. So let's copy it over, paste. All right, let's come to our new repository. We're going to say git add -a, and then we can type git status to check that we've actually done this. And so git add is the command that tells Git that we want to add our files to a sort of limbo state where they're getting ready to be uploaded. And so this -a just tells it we're going to add all our files to be uploaded. We're going to say git commit -m, and then we're going to give a message. Uploading starter files. And so this tells it, this lets you tell it a message that for whatever you're adding. So you can keep track of, hey, why did I add these files at this time? Oh, it was because I was uploading the starter files. All right, finally, we're going to say git push origin main. And so this will actually bring it to the online repository. And it's still giving me personal access token error. Huh. Give me 1 second. All right, so after some tinkering around, I found the solution, at least for Mac. Essentially, you just want to tell it to re-prompt you for your password by going into keychain, deleting this GitHub internet password thing, and then running the command, and it will prompt you for a password and a username, and you just enter the username of your account, and for the password you put the authentication token that you copied, and then it'll work. Obviously, I already did it on my computer, so you're not going to see it, but that's how it works for Mac. And I imagine the solution would be similar for Windows or Linux as well. If you're running either of those, you could probably just delete the authentication and re-log in. But in any case, now that that's done, we can go to GitHub, and if we check our repository again, we will see a lot of items. And so here we have all the files of our turtle project, and they've all been put onto GitHub, which is exactly what we were looking for. All right, so there's a few more configurations that we need to set before we get our application on the internet. First of all, we need to get our version of node, and then come into package.json and update our node version, because Heroku is going to look for this information. So let's just set this. Next, we're just going to run npm install, because as you remember, we copied over all the files except the node modules. So we want to install the node modules again and just make sure everything still works. Let's come to, oh, we have to run. Did I make a command for this? Oh, right. npm run dev start. And let's make sure our website is still running. And it looks like everything is still good to go. Great. So we've migrated our files from just a local folder to a repository that we can connect with an online versioning system called Git. A versioning system called Git, and one that connects to an online repository storing system called GitHub. And so those are a lot of big words, but essentially what it means is we've moved from just a local folder to a folder that's connected to an online folder that lets us keep track of all our changes. All right, so now that we've made those changes, we're going to want to push these changes to our repository that we have online. So again, we're going to repeat the same process, git add -a, git commit, and we're going to say message is added node version, and git push origin main. Oh, did I save it? Yeah, I just didn't save the file. Now if we put git push origin main, we go to GitHub, and we will see that this has updated and it now has our version on it. As well as we can see here, this was updated 23 seconds ago, which is perfect. Okay, so the final stage of this tutorial is going to be using this same versioning concept to work with Heroku. And so if you followed the tutorial earlier, you should have Heroku now installed as a command line interface. So what we can do is type Heroku create, and this will create a Heroku app for us. And right now it's empty. And then we say git push Heroku main. And I'm just going to let that finish up. All right, once it's finished, you should have a screen like this, and it should give you a link here. And so if we type Heroku open, it will open the link in our browser. And if everything's gone right, you should see this site here, which is just telling you that everything's working. And then if we click our link, we can see our database access works as well. And so we've successfully deployed our app to the internet. Now, if it's not working, there is something we need to set here in configurations that will probably fix the error for you. And that's saying Heroku config set node_env equals production in double quotes. And this node env stands for node environment, and it's telling Heroku that this is a production app. And so if you're getting an error here and not a working web page, you probably just have to do this step. And then it will restart for you. and then your web page will probably, hopefully, work. And if not, there will be a command it displays for you to check the logs, and then you can Google whatever error comes up. But this should fix the error that usually pops up when you don't have it installed. Sometimes it just works without having to set this variable, but you should set the variable anyway because it's good practice. And so with that, we have successfully deployed our little turtle application to Heroku. And if we go to Heroku, we will see that this now shows up. And we can see all the information about our turtle app. And now this lives on the internet at this Young Temple address. This is just a random address that Heroku generated when it deployed your application. To make this an actual website name and not just Heroku app, you would need to buy a domain name and then work with Heroku to set the domain name to whatever you bought. And so there's a tutorial on that in Heroku. If you probably just Google Heroku set custom domain, it will show you how to do that. And so you'll be able to turn this into like turtleswebsite.com or something like that. But that's not really necessary for the purposes of this course, and so we will not be covering that. If you want to do that, again, you'd have to buy your own domain. But with all that said and done, we've gone from nothing to a working application that anyone can access on the internet connected to a database. And with that, I would say we've gone pretty far. And so that's going to be all for this video. And hopefully you learned something over this course of this series. Again, if you want to dive further, I highly, highly recommend Mozilla Developer Notes. They have all sorts of great tutorials, not only on just getting a basic website up and running, but different libraries, different functionalities, JavaScript, HTML, CSS, more in depth. Everything you need to really dive deeper into this topic of web development is here, and I cannot recommend them highly enough. But that's going to be everything for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and again, if you have any questions or comments, leave them down below, and I will see you next time.